You are not paranoid, Milam, you're finally seeing the truth. When trust fractures and the shadows grow teeth, Zu Milam steps deeper into a world built on secrets, forged loyalty, and betrayal wearing the face of family. Welcome to the Velvet Story, where fiction breathes and emotion lingers. This is Beneath the Mask, an original audio series told in cinematic detail and emotional depth. Today, we dive into the next turning point in this slow-burn suspense thriller. Chapters 19 to 22, where the lies unravel. The bloodlines tighten, and Milam faces a truth even she wasn't prepared for. Settle in, press play, and let the story take over. Chapter 19, When Blood is Not Enough. A chill hung in the air. Keen Yiran always had a rhythm to his life, precise, silent, controlled. But tonight, something was off. He felt it the moment he stepped out of his car at his downtown residence. Too quiet. The doorman didn't greet him. The lights in the lobby flickered twice. His hand subtly slid to the inside of his coat where he kept a discreet self-defense device, just in case. Years of navigating the ruthless world of corporate espionage had taught him to be cautious. But tonight wasn't about competition. It was a warning. And it came fast. 3 men in masks rushed him the moment he entered the elevator bay. One managed to land a blow to his ribs before Yiran countered, fast, trained. He wasn't a brawler, but he wasn't helpless. He knocked the first down, disarmed the second, but the third had a blade. The pain in his side flared as metal sliced flesh. They weren't here to rob him. They were here to silence him. Later hospital emergency room. Milam burst into the hospital in a panic, hair still damp from her quick shower, her coat half on. She hadn't bothered with heels or even earrings, just grabbed the keys and ran the moment she got the call from an anonymous number. Keen Yiran, she said breathlessly to the nurse. Where is he? The woman gestured toward the curtained bay. When Milam pushed aside the curtain, her heart dropped. He sat up on the bed, shirt removed, bandage wrapped around his side. His hair was disheveled, lip bloodied, but he was conscious. Still, he looked tired and pale. You idiot, she whispered, storming to him. You said you didn't make enemies. I said I avoided them, he winced. Doesn't mean they all listened. She gently touched his jaw, her thumb brushing a smear of dried blood. You were lucky. No, he murmured, catching her wrist gently. I was waiting. For what? For you. She stared at him, unblinking. You shouldn't be here, he added. It's dangerous. I've been surrounded by danger since the day I was born, she said softly. But you're different. You are the only thing lately that doesn't feel like a battlefield. That stunned him. Silence stretched. And then she sank onto the chair beside him and reached for his hand. I'm not going anywhere, she whispered. You stayed for me. I stay for you. The next morning, Zoo Private Hospital Suite. Milam returned home only briefly to change. When she returned to the hospital, a nurse handed her something unexpected, a letter. This was in your mother's drawer, the nurse said. I don't think we noticed it before. It had your name on it. Milam opened it carefully. Milam, your father and I made a choice long ago, to protect you from the darker truths of our world. But now, you must know the whole picture. Zhu Wenguo is not just a traitor to our family, he is not blood. He was adopted into the Zhu name after your grandfather made a mistake during a business expansion. That mistake cost lives. Wenguo's mother was one of them. He always smiled at the dinner table, but he never forgave us. You must understand, sometimes blood does not bind us. But love does. And if you ever doubt yourself, look to the one who stands beside you, the one who chose you, not because he had to, but because he couldn't walk away. With all my love, Mama. Milam closed her eyes. Her hands shook. So it was true. Wenguo's grudge wasn't about ambition. It was about revenge. All these years, they'd welcomed a snake into their circle, fed him trust, warmth, and he'd waited for the perfect moment to strike. She looked toward her mother's still form. I promise you, Mama, I'll finish what you started. That evening, Yiran's apartment. Yiran refused to stay in the hospital another night, insisting he'd rest better in his own space. Meelam had driven him there herself, ignored his protests, cooked him plain congee, and even changed the bandage on his side with a frown so fierce it made him laugh, then wince from pain. "You are not funny," she muttered. "Still worth the smile," he whispered, voice raw. Later, as he rested against the headboard, she curled up in the chair nearby. "I could sleep on the couch," she offered. "You don't have to." She looked at him. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't desire. It was need. Not of the body, but of presence. Of safety. Meelam stood, crossed the room, and slowly sat beside him. He shifted carefully to make space, and she lay down, her head resting just above his heartbeat. It was steady, and somehow, so was she. Just before sleep, "Meelam," he whispered. If something happens to me." She turned her head sharply. "Don't." "But if it does." Her fingers gripped his shirt. "No more ifs. You don't get to leave too." He smiled faintly. "Then I'll stay. As long as you'll let me." A beat passed. "I want to," she whispered. He looked down at her. Her eyes were open, filled with something softer than all her fire, all her fight. Something that looked a lot like love. End of chapter 19. Chapter 20. Threads of Memory. The early morning sunlight streamed through the large windows of Yiran's penthouse. The city below stirred quietly, unaware that in a single high-rise, two lives were slowly changing direction. Zu Meelam sat at the breakfast table, her eyes lingering on the untouched bowl of porridge before her. She wasn't hungry, not for food, at least. Across from her, Keen Yiran flipped through a slim black notebook. His reading glasses sat low on his nose. She hadn't known he even wore glasses. And somehow that small detail softened him further in her eyes. He looked up and caught her staring. "What? You read like an old man." He smirked. "Better an old man than a reckless boy. I've known both. I'll take the glasses." His smirk deepened into a rare smile. But her laughter faded quickly as her thoughts drifted. "Yiran, the night of my wedding, I can't stop thinking about it. There's something I'm forgetting. Something important." He set the notebook aside. "You don't have to force it. Memory doesn't work like a switch." "I know." She rubbed her temples. "But it's been haunting me." "That thread, the veil?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "You said it was caught on your suit. But I didn't remember it until recently. I thought I left it in the bridal room." Yiran exhaled, slow and measured. "I didn't think much of it either. Until I found the dress button inside my car. Not yours. A man's. One of mine was missing too, ripped. Like I struggled with someone." Meelam stiffened. "You were drugged, weren't you?" she asked, her voice low. He nodded. "I drank what I thought was just wine. But the dizziness came fast. I wasn't even supposed to be at that hotel. My meeting got cancelled, and I took a different route. Ended up there, almost like I was led." Her breath hitched. "Do you think Lynn? He didn't plan for me. I think someone else was hired to be with you. But when I got to the room, I interrupted it. I remember a struggle. I must have pushed the man out. Then everything went blank." Tears welled in Meelam's eyes. "And Yiran reached across the table and took her hand gently. "I didn't know. Neither did you." Her voice trembled. "But it was you. And I would never touch you if I hadn't been pushed to that point." That's the truth. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't cold. It was intimate, painful, real. Meelam whispered, "Then maybe, in the middle of a nightmare, we found the only real thing." Zoo Enterprise HQ secret boardroom. Meelam stood in front of a projection screen, eyes blazing with quiet determination. Dressed in navy silk and sharp heels, she looked every inch the daughter of a legacy. But this version of her was born from fire. Only 3 people sat before her, the only board members who hadn't been swayed by Wang Yuo's manipulation. Mr. Fang, a man with grey in his beard and a spine like steel. Madame Ren, her mother's longtime friend. And Lian Cheng, young, sharp, loyal to truth more than power. I have documents from my father's private vault, Meelam began. I have evidence of misappropriated funds, false contracts, and a pattern of laundering that leads directly to Zhu Wenguo. Fang raised an eyebrow. Without full majority, you can't call for removal. Meelam smiled coolly. I'm not asking you to remove him. She clicked a remote. The screen changed to a recorded conversation between Wenguo and another executive. The man's face was blurred, but the voice was clear. The girl's weak now. Once she's out, the shares will default back to us. We finish the job, and the company's ours. Gasps echoed. Madame Ren's eyes widened. He plotted against her after the accident? Meelan's voice didn't waver. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to warn you. If we don't expose him legally, I will go to the press. Everything he's done will become public record. Mr. Fang leaned forward. You've grown, Meelam. I was born for this, she said. I just forgot it for a while. Dove that night rooftop terrace. Keen Yiran stood alone under the stars, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand. The city sparkled below, but he was lost in thought. He didn't hear her footsteps until she stood beside him. Penny for your thoughts, Meelam said softly. I was thinking, he murmured, how strange it is that I used to watch the skyline alone. Every time. But now, it doesn't feel mine unless you're in it. Her lips parted. You say things like that too easily. It's not easy, he said, turning toward her. You just make it feel that way. She reached for the glass and took a tiny sip, grimacing. Still hate whiskey, he laughed. Then why? Because I wanted to know what it tasted like, in your world. His gaze softened. They stood there, side by side, the wind pulling at her hair, the lights flickering like distant memories. I'm not ready, she whispered. Not for another fall. I know, but I want to be, she added, looking up at him. I want to trust again. Slowly, Yiran brushed a strand of hair from her face. Then I'll wait. I'll walk slowly beside you. No demands. Just steps. She leaned in. He didn't kiss her, but he wrapped his arms around her shoulders and held her against his chest. And sometimes, that was 1,000 times more powerful. End of chapter 20. Chapter 21, The Queen's First Move. A week had passed. A week since Meelam stepped back into her father's world, not as his daughter, not as a grieving fiancée, but as a woman reborn. Every morning, she woke before the city stirred. Every night, she returned to a room where her mother and father remained locked in silence, where her brother blinked once to remind her he was still holding on. Her world had collapsed. But she had not. And now, it was her move. Zhu Holdings Executive Conference Room. The glass walls of the boardroom gleamed. Zhu Wenguo sat at the head of the table, suit pressed, smiling pleasantly. If one didn't know better, they'd think him a man with nothing to hide. I hear Ems, Zhu has returned, he said to the board members as they filtered in. A little sooner than expected. Brave of her. She's her father's daughter, Madame Ren replied. She certainly is, he said, lips tightening just slightly. When the door opened, silence fell. Zhu Meelam entered in a tailored ivory pantsuit. Sharp yet graceful, hair swept up into a clean twist. A thin necklace graced her collarbone, her mother's. Wenguo stood slightly. Meelam, welcome back. She didn't smile. Let's begin. Her voice was calm, clear, and icy. Wenguo sat again, eyes narrowing. As of today, Meelam began, placing a thick file on the table. I am invoking Clause 3.6 of the Zhu Family Trust, granting temporary power of attorney over all personal Zhu family holdings and veto rights in the absence of both founders. Lian Cheng blinked. That clause was meant for emergencies. My father is in a coma. My mother too. And my brother cannot speak. If that doesn't qualify, perhaps I need to redefine emergency for this board. There was a beat of stunned silence. Wenguo's knuckles whitened. Even with that clause, you don't have majority control. I don't need majority control to freeze asset movement within the trust, Meelam said coolly. Which includes the 15% your side project tried to move offshore. She pressed a button on the small projector. The screen lit up with offshore account transfers, tied neatly back to a subsidiary under Wang Yuo's name. Gasps rippled across the room. "You've been busy, uncle." Wang Yuo's face twisted for a fraction of a second before he smoothed it out. "This is a misunderstanding. A clerical error. One of the junior accountants who disappeared 2 days ago." "Strange coincidence," Meelam said flatly. She leaned forward. "But I'm not here to expose you, not yet. I'm here to give you a chance." He blinked. "A chance? Surrender your temporary seat on the investment committee. Publicly. Let the family speak for itself. Or," her gaze sharpened, "I release these records to the press and the authorities." "You wouldn't dare." Meelam smiled. "Finally. You've taken everything from me. Uncle. My family. My name. My future. What's left for me to fear?" For the first time, Wengo didn't smile. Elsewhere, Keen Yiran's private retreat. Far from the polished corridors of business war, Yiran was walking through a quiet hillside retreat, the sleeves of his shirt rolled up. He didn't like to run from the city, but Meelam had insisted he rest properly while she moved forward. "You protected me. Let me protect something now," she'd said. He was still thinking about that when he heard her voice behind him. Not Meelam. Another woman. Still pretending to be the noble heir, Yiran? He turned slowly. She wore red, always did. Tall, elegant, with a sharp jawline and eyes like frostbite. "Li Suyin. Missed me?" He didn't answer. Suyin stepped closer, heels clicking. "You look good. Less broken than last time. What do you want?" "I heard about the girl. The zoo heiress." Yiran's eyes narrowed. "Stay away from her." Suyin laughed softly. "I always said you'd fall in love the moment you stopped controlling everything." "So, it's true then?" He didn't answer. She leaned closer, voice low. "She's walking into a firestorm, Yiran. You can't save her." He stared at her. "She's not asking me to." Then, almost to himself, "That's the difference." That night, Zoo Mansion, hospital wing. Meelam stood at the foot of her parents' private room. Her father was unchanged, his monitor blinking slowly. Her mother's hand remained warm but unresponsive. "Today, I won, just a little," she whispered. "I didn't need blood to make a move. Just courage." She turned to her brother's bed and adjusted the blanket over his feet. "I remember when you were the one who used to protect me. Now, it's my turn." She sat beside him, reaching for his hand. "Do you believe in destiny, Ji?" Silence answered. "I didn't," she said softly. "But maybe, just maybe, that night, when everything fell apart, maybe it brought me to the one person who would never lie to me." She didn't say his name. But she didn't need to. End of chapter 21. Chapter 22, Shadows in the Light. The luxury ballroom of a 5-star hotel buzzed with voices, laughter, and clinking glasses. Cameras flashed, and reporters waited like wolves. Zoo Holdings was hosting its annual spring charity gala, a symbol of legacy and power. Tonight, that symbol was being used as a chessboard. And Meelam? She was walking into it not as a pawn, but as a queen. She entered through the main hall. Dressed in deep emerald silk, a color her mother always said made her eyes sharper. Her hair flowed over one shoulder, lips painted in a bold red. It wasn't vanity, it was strategy. Beside her walked Madame Ren and Lian Cheng, their expressions unreadable but protective. Wengo was already inside. He had brought someone, a woman. And as Malin's gaze swept across the glittering room, her steps paused for the briefest second. That woman looked like family. She was family. Zhu Liyin, her cousin. They hadn't seen each other in over 10 years, not since Liyin's parents left China under strained silence and whispers of scandal. The last time they spoke, Meelam was 11. Liyin had slapped her across the face for tattling about a broken vase. Now, she stood poised beside Wengo, smiling politely as if no bloodline burned between them. Backstage politics a few minutes later. "I see you brought help," Meelam said smoothly, approaching Wengo near the central fountain display. Wengo turned, the very image of calm delight. "Family should stand together," don't you agree? Leein gave a slow, charming nod. We haven't met in so long, Milam. I barely recognized you. I didn't recognize you either. I thought people changed. But you feel exactly the same. Wengo chuckled as if it were all a joke. Leein recently completed her MBA in the UK. She's quite talented. We thought it was time she rejoined the company. Family, after all. Milam smiled, eyes steel behind the curve of her lips. Family, she repeated. Always so complicated. Nearby keen Yiran's watch. Yiran leaned against the bar at the far end of the room. He wasn't dressed like the other businessmen. His collar was open, no tie, and his gaze never left Milam. He watched her maneuver, watched how she smiled when necessary but never too wide. How she tilted her head slightly when Wengo spoke, always listening, never backing. She's changed, came a voice beside him. He didn't have to turn. Suyin. She swirled her wine, not drinking it, not like she used to be, I mean. She's harder now, smarter, she's stronger, he corrected. Not harder. She still cries at her brother's bedside every night. Suyin's eyes flickered, but her tone remained casual. Does she know how deep you're in? He glanced at her. I told her enough. Enough, Suyin murmured. That's always been your weakness, Yiran. You hold back until it's too late. His jaw clenched, but he didn't respond. Suyin's voice dropped, gentler this time. I didn't come back to hurt you. I came because something's moving in the dark. Bigger than Wengo, bigger than you think. Then help her, he said simply. Would she want help from someone like me? She doesn't know you. Suyin finished her wine and set it down. Then maybe it's time she does. Dove Garden Terrace that night. Milam slipped away from the crowd, needing a moment of air. The cold breeze bit at her skin. But it was the weight inside that made her exhale. She stood by the balustrade, staring at the city lights far below. Footsteps approached. I thought you left, she said quietly. Yiran stood beside her, hands in his pockets. Not when I knew you'd come here. You always run to the edges when you're overwhelmed. She didn't answer immediately. Then, he brought her here to rattle me. Did it work? I won't lie. For a moment, yes. But then I remembered, she's not my threat. He is. And now, I've seen his cards. Yiran studied her profile, her jawline sharp in the moonlight, but her lips trembling slightly. You are doing more than surviving, Milam. You are leading. She turned to him. That's the problem, isn't it? I've learned how to lead. But not how to feel. You've been taught to protect everything. That doesn't mean you've forgotten how to feel. I don't trust easily, I know. And yet, she said softly, looking up at him, you've stayed. His voice, deep and low. I didn't stay because I had nowhere else to go. I stayed because nowhere else felt like home. For a heartbeat, everything was still. Then Milam said, that night, when we were both lost, maybe it wasn't a mistake. He stepped closer, not touching her, just standing near enough that the warmth between them filled the silence. No, he said. It was the beginning. And for the first time in weeks, Milam let her head rest briefly on someone's shoulder. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply let herself be. End of chapter 22. He was never protecting me, was he? No, Yiran said. He was protecting himself from what you're about to become. The game has changed. Enemies are no longer in the shadows. They're sitting at the same table. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beneath the Mask. If you've come this far, you already know, this story isn't about power. It's about who survives the truth. Tell us in the comments. Do you think Milam should trust Yiran, or has the price of loyalty grown too high? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Velvet Story for more cinematic audio stories every week. New chapters drop soon, and what's coming next will break more than just silence. Until then, stay behind the mask.